Hi, I'm just so honoured to meet you. My name is Natalie Sher. I'm from South Africa, Johannesburg, and like I said, I think you're amazing. What you're doing in South Africa is awesome. And I'd just like to ask you, with your work in HIV/AIDS, how has it been received by the general public? I mean, how have people come for testing? Because I know, like, it's a pretty scary experience to go for HIV testing. Has there been a good response?
That is a great question, and just to answer it immediately, our mobile clinic, what we did was, so there's kind of backstory to this clinic, is that there was an organization, Edifani, which did mobile outreach. And so they took their tents and their coolers full of drugs and needles, and they walked out and set up in the middle of some muddy field with a sign that said HIV testing right here. So that's obviously pretty terrible, right? Not sanitary, they can't do it in the rain, they can't do it at night, they can't do it at all during the winter, though your winters are still beautiful, which is unfair. But we built this clinic as something they could use all the time. There's one-way reflective glass, and it just says mobile outreach on it. So people are coming in for TB testing and HIV testing and all of that, and that's how you get a number like 700% increase. You know, that's not 700 people or whatever. That's what they did last year, and then with our caravan, they did 700% more. That's incredible. So it is about figuring out kind of sly ways to get around it, because we've tricked people into thinking that we're doing any kind of testing in this, and people feel more comfortable going in. But especially with, I do a lot of research on stigma and how it affects HIV treatment and prevention. And so something like our community center, which is next to a medical clinic in Namibia, you figure out how to, so the backstory behind that is there's one HIV testing room in this clinic, and there's 50 people at all times, 24 hours a day, in line to go to this clinic. So anybody who goes for HIV testing walks the gauntlet of 50 people into the room of HIV testing, and obviously no one is going because of the stigma. So we put an HIV testing room in our community center, which is also used for meetings and other points, and you kind of pull that away so that you can sort of secretly get in, because stigma, unfortunately, is something that you have to combat on the field. Okay, so we're going to attack stigma. But while it's still there, you have to figure out ways to get around it so that people can get care. So does that answer your question? Okay.
Obviously, funding plays a pretty big role in your organization. I'm just wondering what age group do you target for this? Like if you're giving a presentation or if you're asking people to help fund your organization, and does the fact that you're depending on money to keep it going, does that affect what age group you target?
I think that is one of the coolest things about Eyes on Africa is that it was started by college kids, targeted at college-age kids. But we got bigger somehow, and the first step that we got bigger was in an elementary school, which is our primary school. So it's just kind of crazy. We had someone do just a little book, and she drew pictures of like a dollar bill and said, "There's problems in Africa," and they did a fundraiser for us and raised $100. But it was such a cool step because this little girls, we got an entire school aware of our cause. We got a little bit of press, and it started spreading to elementary schools. So we had college and elementary, and then we had a 78-year-old woman come on the trip. So that spread to way beyond college and everything. And it really is something that everyone can get involved in. It's just a great cause, and it happened to be started by someone who was young. And that's why we're sort of in this transitional period where, okay, I'm graduating, but we are too big to let it just fall apart. It's not a college thing anymore. It's moved way beyond that, and beyond not to the all the people with money that are adults, but beyond in all directions, younger and older and everybody.
Hello, sir. My name is Daniel Rom, and I'm yet another South African. There's quite a few of us. What I'd just like to know is, of course, American culture and African culture are very different. How were you able to introduce yourself into the African culture, overcome the culture shock, and what advice would you give us to help overcome culture shock in different countries?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that I guess would be just general advice from traveling, and it's about just loving everything that happens around you. I mean, you're right. Some of the things that happen in South Africa or Namibia are really, really different from some of the things that happen in Flower Mound, Texas. But it's awesome. I mean, these people, y'all live like that, or whatever it is. I mean, everybody lives a certain way. You just have to appreciate it and think it's really cool, and not go, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're doing that, I'm so embarrassed, or turn away, because that's just life. And it's sort of about being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes, which is a cliche, but it's also a great way to just live your life in general, is try and put yourself in their shoes. They're awkward too, because you're an American and they're allowing you to participate in whatever they're doing. And you do bump up against certain things, like this guy not wanting to sell us the clinic or whatever it was, but ultimately it comes back to that you're doing good and everyone is receptive of that. Everybody wants to do good, they just don't know how. So once you prove that your intentions are really good, then they'll help you out. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kim Menzies and I'm from Sydney, Australia. And I was just wondering, so I understand that you're hoping for the future to take Eyes on Africa globally. So pretty much I was wondering, what can we do to take it back to our own countries? Maybe we'll just start at our own high school. How do we promote it? How do we start raising money for it and then get that money back to you?
Yeah, well, that would be awesome if you guys want to do that, some of you. But that's a great idea. It doesn't even have to start at your high school if you don't want it to. That seems like a great avenue. So much of what we do is just kind of tagging on something that's already happened. So we have all these things in different schools, but we're not necessarily clubs at different schools. We're just maybe a fraternity or the Key Club or whatever it might be does a fundraiser for us. So if your student government or whatever organization has a fundraiser and they want to do it for somebody, just throw out the name Eyes on Africa, and that's a good start, because even if they don't end up doing it for us, at least those 12 people now know that we exist. So I think that's a good first step, is just finding someone who's already doing something and saying, hey, I know a cause that's pretty cool, it's kind of new, let me tell you about it. And usually they'll go, hey, that's pretty cool, I do want to help that out, we're looking for somebody to donate to. But it really is whatever you want, and I'd love for you to just please take a card and send me an email, and we can go back and forth and bounce ideas off each other and figure out how we can make the biggest difference down there.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Esther from Ghana. I was wondering what you would say to those people who feel they are less of and thus in no position to help others, because certain people feel they don't even get enough to be burdened by problems of others elsewhere.
I think that would just be sort of realizing how lucky each person is. You can take some of the tragic stories that you come across. You see, we go back to this one orphanage, and there's a kid who was found in a dumpster the day before we came, the first year I was there. And we've seen him grow up now, going back several years, and he is as absolute as a tragic story as you can ever get. But he's in this orphanage, okay? So this is as sad of an example as I really have. And when he grows up to be like 14 years old, he will have grown up in this orphanage and will somehow be lucky, you know what I mean? Because the alternative was for him not to be there at all, just to not exist. So you have to realize that just by being alive and by eating occasionally or whatever someone's circumstance may be, you are luckier than a whole lot of people, because there are some really, really sad stories out there. And it's just about sort of that self-realization of, I have a lot more than a lot of people, no matter where you are, who you are. And so there's just a huge obligation that comes with luck of the draw, or fate, or blessings, or whatever word you want to put on it. There's something about just that realizing that you really are a fortunate person.
Hi, my name is Pearl Blake, and I'm also from South Africa. I just want to say it's really, really awesome that you're actually really, really young and have already done so much. So that's really cool. Well, from previous experience, I know that starting a campaign in South Africa is not easy, especially within smaller communities. People just generally are just too lazy to get up and help out. I want to know, has there ever been a point where you kind of thought, gosh, I just can't do this anymore? And when you kind of meet people with more negative attitudes towards what you're doing, like thinking, oh, this is another yank trying to make a difference in South Africa, how did you deal with that?
Those two questions probably answer each other. So yes, there are definitely points. The joke answer is every single day I think, this is too hard, I don't want to do it.